What advice would you have for a new farmer?
Quit your job. Well, if you wanna make even like a slight living of it with it, you gotta really you gotta get into it. And you gotta do it, and that's what our Earth is asking us to do.
Have you ever wondered if biodynamics really makes a difference with soil health, with the land that you're growing your food in, or in your community, or even emotionally, physically, spiritually? Aric Aguonie is an award-winning college-educated farmer who throws all the rules about climbing the corporate ladder out the window. He is a beautiful example of living a life aligned with your values, aligned with what's important to you, what lights you up from the inside out, and how you can make value-based decisions and thrive farming, thrive emotionally, mentally, and spiritually, and even support yourself without having to have a second job just so you can farm. His insights are illuminating, and his experience is inspiring. And I'm really excited to share this interview with you. I'm Natalie Horsbauer, founder of Heart and Soil Living and editor-in-chief of Heart and Soil Magazine. If you would like to get more support in your regenerative farming, gardening, and living, head on over to heartandsoilmagazine.com and sign up for our newsletter for free, or join us as a magazine subscriber, or be in our membership and be part of our bigger community for even more support. You make yourself an amazing day. Thanks for tuning into this interview, and enjoy this conversation with Aric Aguonie of Earth Haven Farms. Welcome to Heart and Soil Conversations and Interviews. And we are in a good space today with our guest, Aric Aguonie. He is resourceful in his farming experience and life experience. And my heart my heart feels like it is expanding beyond all multiverses, with the gratitude that I have to be having a conversation with Aric and to be sharing his just part of his story with our community and with anybody who listens into it. And I'm just curious, before we jump in and before I introduce Aric, I'm wondering if you ever ponder and think about your impact and the impact that you're having on your life, on your soil, on your farms, with the food you grow in your gardens, and the deeper impact that has beyond your actions. Like, what is that ripple effect? Because I think that's something that Aric really exemplifies is, um, he lives and breathes questions and curiosity about the impacts of indigenous practices and biodynamic practices, both on his farm and beyond into his community and the environment and the cosmos. And so with that, Aric, I just want to invite you to introduce yourself and welcome to Heart and Soil.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Wow, that's quite the intro. That was great. Yeah. Again, thanks for letting me for doing the interview here. This is going to be fun. I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, my name's Aric Aguonie. I've been farming for almost 20 years now on about 200 acres here. It's about half woodlot, half fields, and we're doing a 2 acre garden. There's greenhouses, and then the cows, of course. So there's 12 cows right now, but like to keep the numbers between 10 and 20 for the number of cows I have. And yeah, the reason why I have the cows is they're kind of like the centerpiece of the farm. So they're uh, the reason why I have them is not for beef or milk or anything like that, although that is a residual effect of why I have them. But I have them for their shit or manure, so I can give back. I'm tried to always be focused on giving back more than taking away from the earth, and it is insanely easy to just take away from the earth, and it's even easier to not be conscious of that. So yeah, I tried to take the hard road and try to be conscious of my actions on a daily basis, every breath, every movement. And of course, that's not easy in itself. So it's been a challenge over the years, but yeah. So the cows, making sure I have happy cows means I have happy soil. Happy soil means I have happy plants, and happy plants means I have happy me. And then it all goes around again. And yeah, so yeah, I've just really been focused on doing that, and focusing on that more so than the business aspect of farming. I always think that if you do something that is of value, then people will um, give you what you need for that.
Mm-hmm.
Although it's not really easy in Western culture. So I've learned over the years.
Yeah, that is so true, Aric. And I think I'm just going to back it up. So Aric is the general manager of Haven Farm, which he mentioned is a 200-acre farm in Ontario. And his mom is actually Catherine Unger, who is the founder and creator of in partnership with Rosemary Taylor, of the Celestial Planting Calendar, which we're carrying on the torch for. So just to give you some context of of his connection in the biodynamic space and in the farming and gardening space. Um, so Aric, you said something that was really, really powerful, which was the like doing the right things and the people will come. And one of the things I love about Earth Haven and in our the small amount of conversations that we've had, but more in the witnessing Earth Haven over the years, is there's always an invitation for community involvement, whether it be volunteering or mentorship or apprenticeship or courses or classes, or come learn how to make compost, or all sorts of different things. And so I'm curious about um, in building a business around that model, what has been really effective?
I don't know. I guess I would say perseverance, just sticking with it over the years and being stubborn and just like not wanting to do anything else. And yeah, it's I would say that would be it. It hasn't been easy, and over the years, like it's been before COVID, trying to do this during COVID, and then after COVID. Each time has been completely different challenge to get through it all. Um, yeah, I don't know. I think perseverance, and the nice thing about being on a farm is you're a little bit more pliable. You can change things as you see fit. You don't just have to stick with a business model. You can change it over the years and grow different things and fail at different things and succeed at different things. So yeah,
Mhm. So you're
yeah,
saying being adaptable is really important, and also
yeah.
listening to customer feedback is really important. And how important is it to grow the food that they actually want to eat?
That's the challenge is finding the community and people that want to actually eat your food. And
Mm,
it's definitely been a huge challenge for me. And I mean, I go down to Toronto every week, and I still come home with lots of food. And you'd think that going to a place that's so densely populated with that many people, you think that there would be some conscious people that want to support the type of lifestyle that I live, and it's not easy. Yeah,
mm,
I only go
mm,
with a small truck with stuff, and I can't seem to get it all sold. So it's a challenge. Um, and it's one of the top rest or markets in Toronto. So yeah, it's a hard business, and finding those people in such a large place is not easy. And
mm,
yeah, I would say 0.1% of the population actually come out to the market and support us on a weekly basis that live in Toronto, right? I mean, the
mhm,
grocery stores just they're. I mean, I've been to college and I've learned how to sales and all that stuff, and it's really easy to manipulate people's minds and get them to just pay for things that they don't even know that they want, and they find out they didn't even want it in the first place. So yeah, and so grocery stores, they really just have everything that we need when we need it and where we need it, and it's so convenient. And and everything's in packages and it's perfect, right? So
Yeah.
it's when you go to a market, you do have to do a little bit more thinking and a little bit more independence and a little bit more creative thought. So what can I
Hmm.
do with these things that are just in abundance right now? And I really want to try this. What can I do with it? And, things like that. It's a little bit more challenging, which, most people don't like thinking so much nowadays. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And what are you finding does work though? What helps move that product for you when you're at the market?
Uh, I guess for me, like I've been doing it for so long that I do have really good customers that do come and but it is really just like I have 5 customers that really come every time in Toronto, and then the rest are all just a flip of a coin.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it is just sticking with it and just building that community that really understands what I do and really want to support that and
Mm-hmm.
are willing to grow with me. And
Mm-hmm.
that's not so easy when like a lot of people prefer that I would just have available cows all the time. And yeah, there's some people that ask me every week, the same people that ask me every week, have you butchered any cows lately? And I say, no, I'm not. Just like last week, I said, I'm probably going to butcher next year. And so, like I said, the reason why I have the cows is not for the meat. So if my business was just centered around just making money and just getting that bottom line, growing a certain amount of crops so I can make sure I make amount of money from that, it's not so much about that for me. It's about making sure that the cows are happy and making sure that I am happy and I'm not overdoing myself just to make a little bit of extra money. So it is about value and peace of mind and how you want to live your life and then how you want to live your life in the future. So after college, I
Mm.
realized that I do not want to climb the corporate ladder. I mean, it looks easy enough to do, but after I'm done that, if I live long enough, then maybe I can retire and then get this garden and live the life that I'm living right now. So might as well just do that stuff right now and change value and change how you look at things. But that's the tough part is with Western culture, we don't really see things like that. We get out of college and we want to just, you know, the first 20 years of our life is just climbing that ladder and seeking something that we don't even know what we're seeking. And then by the time we
Yes.
realize we're going to that place, then yeah, our bodies can't enjoy the time that we have to retire on. So
So
yeah,
Eric,
I'm looking at things in a different value system kind of thing.
yeah, that's really powerful. And what is it about farming and working with the soil and the land that has your heart?
Well, I like to look at things like in a literal way. Like, I mean, I do really love plants and like it's something that I'm very passionate about. But on the other side, it's like I can literally feed my family. I literally can keep myself active. I can literally uh, fill up my mind, body, and soul with what I'm doing. I can feel good about it from deep down, and I can challenge my mind by solving small problems to large problems. I'm an engineering type of mind, so I love uh, making things work out easier for me. So making systems work a little better so that, and for me, everything is human systems. So I try not to use machinery as much as possible. So no till and stuff. So that means I need to be able to use my body and the people that I'm with more efficiently. And again, that's another Western challenge we have is if I wanted to, I mean, I could go into debt and look for loans so I could go hire Mexican and foreign workers to come in and do these jobs for me, and I could, work a lot harder in a sense to be able to accomplish all that. But I like to take things a little slower and not go into massive amounts of debt. So I try to just do what I can with the amount of time and the body I have, and try not to
Mhm.
work too hard and try to be okay with not making, millions of dollars. And yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I'm having a conversation with my dad in some ways. He also said that we the meat is a byproduct of the cows. We don't have cows for meat, and we have the same questions at the farmers market. What are you butchering next next
Yeah.
year? Because the cows we had weren't very many, and then um he also farmed from values-based decisions, and I'm just so curious. One of the things that you said it was about growing healthy soil and growing healthy animals and healthy plants, which and happy, you said happy as well. Um, and I'm just wondering, where's your focus when you're growing healthy, happy soil? What are you doing?
I'm thinking about uh, everything. So, every step needs to be, I'm in reverence of everything that I do and everything that I'm interact with. So, what I do like to do is think about the people that I'm growing it for. So, for instance, tobacco, uh, I give away my tobacco, so it's something I do for free. So why do something for free? What's your motivation for putting, 50 of these in the ground and then, taking the time to go do all those things and then just give it away, right? My dad does not like how I do that. But the reason why I do it is because people need prayers answered, and uh, I would rather not have them pay me to have their prayers answered. And so if I'm doing something like that, growing tobacco, and I'm in my brain and my heart and my soul, I'm thinking about what they're going to be doing with it once they have it. Hopefully they're really appreciative of it. And then beyond that, hopefully they have something that they need, right? And if if all I'm doing in my gesture of planting it, maintaining it, and then harvesting it is putting all my energy into making sure that those prayers are getting answered, maybe it's a little more potent than just going and buying it from a store, buying your sage and all that stuff from a store. So uh, there is far more value in that than money, right? So it's yeah. So it's I do wish that I could have a better living because I think the way I think, but I don't think that's really the way it's supposed to be. So yeah, there's just again, it's perspective and what I value. So I just value things a little differently.
Mm-hmm. I love how you said you have reverence for everything that you do and in growing what you grow and stewarding the animals that you steward and growing the healthy soil. And so when you're in reverence and you have a handful of that soil in your hand and you're looking at what you've done and what you're doing and what you're going to do next, and you're reflecting on what some of the most um, nourishing practices have been in building that healthy soil, what would you say has really moved the needle in the health of your soil?
Well, it would be the cows, yeah, for sure.
Mm.
The cows for sure, and then the biodynamic practices as well. And just yeah, again, being perseverant and sticking with it. Uh, yeah, and just doing it over and over and over and over again.
What biodynamic practices specifically have helped you build soil?
Well, I guess using all the biodynamic preparations, so the compost preparations, and then the 501 and the 500 corn
Mhm.
manure and the silica preparations. Yeah, and putting them out, and of course the calendar is a really good help for knowing when to do those things. And yeah, again, it's just doing it. It's
Mhm.
it's the act of doing. I think that's the key that a lot of people are having a hard time with is the actual like everyone sees so many different ways that we could be helping the earth out, but none of us are actually taking, even the smallest of actions towards doing that because we're all
Mhm.
we all have our lives and yeah.
Yeah, so true. And so how do you carve out the space to do what you want to do and what you need to do to build healthy soil and have healthy plants and healthy animals?
But again, it's like being stubborn. It's like just saying like I don't mind. I'm gonna deal without having a winter coat for the next. I've in 3 years. I finally bought myself a winter coat this year. But yeah, all these winters just going out with stuff I have on, and just because I value this more than I don't want to get a job. I don't want to work for someone else. I don't want to have plastic in my business. I don't want to have all these different ways of being just so I can climb a ladder and stuff, and then again, hopefully retire. And this, it's something that we've all been taught to do, and it's what we learn in school. And I don't know. I guess I've always kind of questioned those motives, like why
Mhm.
why should I value those things? why
So
would
really, so really connecting with the value, the like why you're doing what you're doing has really been a driving force in the success and growth of Earth Haven and your own personal journey.
Yeah, well, the personal journey would be like the side thing too. Like, so growing up in the city, I being a native person growing up in the city and growing up just like everyone else, whether you're an immigrant or whoever, I just grew up in the suburbs, and I always wondered what it is to be a native person. And this is one of one of my avenues of my search into finding my way back to the earth. So I don't know any elders, and I've never been taught anything about my culture. And yeah, I always say I represent the success of the church and the government to take the Indian out of the person. Um, and it's yeah, I just yeah, I'm so confused when it comes to those types of things. So how do I get back to it, and how do I do it without any elders to guide me? So I've had to use books and my own wit. And one native tradition I've always held, I thought that was really important, was when a young warrior goes out and does his first hunt, and they'll send sometimes, the Turtle Island is huge, so it's not the same in every culture, but in every tribe. But it's sending them out alone in the woods to figure things out on their own. And I've kind of grown up that way with business and stuff. I've managed ski hills and stuff, and the boss just says, like, here, you know, that's your job. Go do it, and you just have to figure it out. So that's kind of what I did here, is just trying to find my way back to the earth. And one of my favorite books is the Hopi Survival Kit, and I really follow that book quite a lot when it comes to trying to find myself. Like, there are different levels of native people, right? There's people that are on the reservation that still know the language and are doing things traditionally, and then you have people that are not on the reservation that are doing things more Western, and then there's people that are on the res that are doing everything Western. So you have different places and different types of people. Same with Amish people, right? They have the same type
Mhm.
of they're in culture, in our culture, and then there's some that say no, we can only do a certain amount. But the main thing I think with both is maintaining the sense of community and tribal,
Mhm. And one of the things I think you do well at Earth Haven is build a sense of community. So can you tell us a little bit more about that and what works well in creating community?
That's a big question, and that's something that requires a lot of talk. And I think when it comes to community, I think communication is key with all that. And yeah, over the years, very slowly, we've been building community, and it is very small. But yeah, it's just about making sure that you take the time to be with those people that you value, and the type of way that you like to be.
Mhm.
There's tons of communities all over the world that do different things, and I mean, they have conventions for people that love being in community or doing whatever it is that they like to do, boating or hunting and all these different things. So
Mhm.
um yeah, my community is people that like good food and want to support a different way of farming, which is not very prevalent on our continent here.
Mhm. And when you're planning for your seasons, your farming seasons, there's the spring and the summer and the fall and the winter, and you're connecting with what's important to you and why you're farming the way you're farming. And you have all these different biodynamic preps to make, and you have different biodynamic preps to apply, and you have compost to make, and you got to get the shit out of the cow barn or wherever it is and put it in the pile. Do you ever like zoom out and like do like bigger planning, Eric, or do you just literally um take one step in front of the other on a day-to-day basis, just looking at what's in front of you?
It's a good question. I would say a little bit of all of the above. I do really enjoy spontaneity and just waking up. That's one thing I love about farming, is you can wake up in the morning and then be totally swept away with, like, just dealing with one cow, or So that's one thing I really love about it. But yeah, it's really hard the planning. So we do. I love working with my mom and Emily. They're my two other people that I work with here on the farm, and both of them really we like to have meetings and again community. So we work a lot together. And in the wintertime, we have our more long dot or long like looking out to the whole season, and then during the summertime when it is just go 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 time, we really do just kind of wake up in the morning and try to accomplish as much as we can in that day. And we'll have a meeting every Monday and we'll try to decide what we're going to do for that week, and again try to accomplish all those things in the week. And yeah, it's not
Mm-hmm.
easy, but you start at one and you go to the next. And with the biodynamic preparations, you have to kind of make those important. You have to make the time for it, and it isn't easy. And I've been to so many different biodynamic meetings and classes and stuff. And uh, yeah, one of the most, or what I see as one of the most common things that people mess up with is just making the time to actually do it.
Mm-hmm.
So for instance, like looking at the calendar and being like, oh, I got to do it on Wednesday. And then Wednesday comes around, the kids are just a little too, get you, waste your time, or they take up your time. And then you go beyond that and you're like, oh, well, now I can't do it. So, but that's not true. You really should just get out there and do it. Like, it doesn't matter that it's not on the right celestial day. Just get it done, because doing other thing is way better than not doing other things. So put your energy into what you think. And so don't worry and don't be afraid of not following the rules. For nature never follows rules. They follow guidelines, not rules. So, um, yeah, you got to be like nature and be fluid. So you got to just get out there and do it when it needs to be done or when you can do it. Because, you know, one cool thing about even conventional farming is that all the combines and all the tractors are all out at the same times doing those same things. So they're connected to the cosmos, whether we like to think it or not.
Yeah, so true. So
Mm.
true. So, what surprised you the most about biodynamics and the impacts it's having on your farm and soil and land?
Uh, I guess I always believed in it, so I never really had a hard time. And I did work on a biodynamic farm before I came here to work here, and to this day they still say that I'm the only person that actually took it on. So it's been like 20 years, and I was there a number of years before I even started here. So all this time, and still with all the people that go through their farm, I'm still the only one that's actually taken it on. So it makes me feel good, but it also makes me feel really bad because there's no
Hmm.
one else doing this type of thing. Um, but yeah, I think it's for me, it's a way to really connect. And yeah, you're got your hands in shit, and yeah, you're doing something that seems crazy, but it's not as crazy once you learn about it and feel what it's doing. Um, so, and yeah, of course, that has nothing to do with being native at all. But again, I was just using what I had available. So,
Hmm.
mm,
Can I reflect something back to you, Eric?
sure.
Okay. You probably already know this. I just have heard you say a couple times, like, um, there's something that's so powerful in the way you harness and harvest and claim the work that you're doing and the importance of it and the value of it. And then every once in a while I hear, like you said, I'm happy that I'm the only person who continued the biodynamics, and there's a part of you that's sad. And I hear that often from um and I'm going to tie one more thing to it, which you said the kind of the impact that your farm is having is kind of small. Like there's not like massive amount of people that have been being impacted, whether by the workshops or the CSAs. I'm not too sure exactly what you mean by that. And I just want to amplify the depth work and the breadth work. So sometimes our depth work is where our heart and soil and soul is. And that impact it ripples out forever and ever and ever and ever. So you have people who are working with smaller amounts of people, but the impact they have on those people are so profound that it ripples out and ripples out and ripples out and ripples out. And that really feels like that's a big part of your work and your mission right now. And so even though there is that breadth work with going to the farmers markets and that larger reach, with the breadth work, I just really want to amplify the very, very powerful depth work that you are doing just alone with your presence with people and the way that you show up and the way that you're farming and growing food. And that, um, like that is something that is beyond any monetary value. So I just really want to um, raise that, raise that up and lift it up.
No, you're very right, and thank you for that. I appreciate that. It's nice to be
Mhm.
reminded. Sometimes
Mhm.
it's tough when you're the only person out in the field.
It is. It can be so lonely, right? I see people nodding their heads here. Like it can be so lonely and it can feel like we're not like, what are we doing this for? Like really, what are we doing this for? And
Yeah.
and you know why you're doing it for. And so just continuing to like bring that, I think we all need to bring our compass back in alignment with that, with our values and just continue to um uh just charge that battery
And
of
like I was saying, like with just getting out there and doing it, there's so many people that have this wish, like I want to find a small piece of property and buy it and then just do it smallly so I can just do it on my own. And it's always best to share. And it's always best like uh, this property is my mom's. I don't own it yet. I will eventually maybe, but there's two other farms that I also farm as well. And so even just here and all those other farms that are asking me to take care of their land, like that's all they've done. They just said to me, Aric, I like how you manage your property. Can you manage my farm for me? And then I say, of course I'm going to do that. So there's Emily's farm, and then there's another farm, Jay's farm, just down the road. And so I'm farming over 600 acres, and I don't own anything. I don't need to. The key is just showing up, right? Just be there for the land. So, when you talk to the trees every morning, um, you do what they ask you to do.
you talk to the
And
trees every morning.
oh yeah, of course. And
Oh,
whenever you need
how do you talk to the trees?
to. More by just being. It's less of a literal sense. But it's again just being in reverence and in awe of being out in nature, right?
Mhm.
Um, yeah. So when at the market, one of the things I like to inspire is imagination. And so yeah, when you're out in nature, like you don't need anything. You really have all the pieces and all the things that you need to create life and to be alive. And to do that on a daily basis, like you're constantly using your creativity. But when we're inside a house watching TV and climbing going through school and stuff, your imagination's being limited by, not so much limited, just guided, right? So you have a less view for being creative. So I like to just try to say, look, you can just go out there and there is literally any option. There's any possibility. Just find something that you like to do. And if you like the earth, then represent that and don't go dye your hair thinking that you're saving the water. So, you know,
That's really funny. Um, so I'm so curious for people who want to, because I think there's a lot of people who are leaning more into that. Like, I want to listen to my plants. I want to listen to the trees. I want to listen to what my animals are saying, thinking, feeling. And so how does someone just open their senses to that, open their eyes and ears and deeper listening?
for me, it's all, I always come back to it's the doing of the thing. If you want to be able to talk to plants and trees, you need to literally go and do those types of things. And like I
Mm.
say, it's not on a literal scale, but the literal part is actually being there and doing it, right? I really liked, I read Bach, I don't know if you, Bach flower remedies, and
Hmm.
how he makes his preparations and stuff. Um, yeah, he would talk about just going and spending a lot of time with each herb and each plant, and just my favorite thing. And one of the workshops we do with Blair here is we try to encourage that. So Goethean observation. So trying to look at something without knowing about it. So, it's easy enough to go into, say, the Peterson's Field Guide and learn about an oriole and everything that it does and everything that it is about. But, it's also a different thing to just go sit under a tree for a year and hang out with an oriole. So, yeah, there's
Mm.
lots of different ways to experience life. And for me, it's the actual doing it. Yeah. Reading it in books and on YouTube is very helpful, but on only one certain level. Yeah.
Yeah, man. That just that mm, moves me very, 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 very deeply.
Oh,
Um,
good.
doing and sitting and listening.
Mhm.
Which brings me to happy cows. How do you know your cows are happy? Like, how does a person, how can you tell?
Well, they're not running away. But yeah, they're content. They always come back. They like their cycle, and yeah, make sure always keeping them fed, I think, is the main thing. Just making sure they always have good food. So yeah, that's what they do,
Mm.
is eat. As long as they can do what they do, then they're happy. So, but yeah, I brush them twice a day, or well, whenever I can, as much as I can, at least twice a day. And
Wow.
then, so yeah, which means I get to be with them a lot. So each one of them is very social. They trust me, and which is nice for when I have to handle them, because I can just come walk right up to them and do what I need to do. So
Yeah.
yeah, again, it's taking that time. Most people's approach to animals is, I have this animal, it equals this amount of money, and if I keep it here and feed it this amount all the time, then I can get about this amount of money from it when I release it. And most farmers that do cattle farming also do second jobs and stuff too, which is
Mhm.
encouraged in our society now, because it's so hard to make a living. So I think an ancient way of shepherding is a little better and a little more holistic for me. So I want to
Mhm.
actually be here as much as possible. I'm not even able to be with them as much as I want to be, because
Mm.
I have to be in the garden, and I have to do other things, and
Mhm.
family and all those things too. So it's not easy, but you try to make as much time as you can and be there for them as much as possible, and daily,
Yeah.
right? So it means I can't go take vacations, but I
Mm.
live in paradise, so it's a happy trade-off.
Yeah, you're living the life of of a vacation.
Yeah.
Um, and even though there might be some hard points and maybe you're not making the millions of dollars, you're still able to support yourself farming. You're able to be in the fields and with your animals full time without having to work a second job
Hmm.
at this time
Hmm.
by choice. Very
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
So you make a lot of compost, I'm guessing.
Hmm. Yeah.
What composting tips would you have for us? Because I know it's probably for sure biodynamic compost. Would that be true?
Of course.
Yes,
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
course.
Put the preparations in there.
So
Yeah.
and you've been making compost for a long time, not only on your farm, but like you said, you're woofing and working on a biodynamic farm before. Um, what are what are some of the beginner mistakes that we can avoid? And what are some of the things you notice over time just really helps to make good compost?
I would say visiting it often. So it's not to say like doing something with it, but just visiting it. So
Mhm.
just yeah, layering is key too when you're visiting it. So if say you're in a backyard garden and you have one of those black things where you just stack it, just make sure if you're always putting your green stuff in from the house, just put some dirt in, and then put some grass in, and so just keep layering it. And then of course it is nice to turn it every once in a while, so I like to turn mine as much as I can, which is probably realistically like every 2 to 3 months. I'll flip my compost piles over, and every time I flip it, like mine are big compost piles, so I'm flipping these with my tractor. So I'm trying to add something to it, like more hay, wood chips, eggshells. I have one compost pile that is just green matter, so just plants. That's always composting during the year, and it gets pretty big too. So from the greenhouses, and I put that in there as well. And then of course the preparations, compost preparations. So if you don't have the compost preparations, it is, if you can learn about the plants that you do put in the compost, you can also just take those plants and then compost those either on the side or right in the compost too. Those are really, really useful, like the nettles and the horsetail, equisetum and stuff like that. So yeah, it's really good to use as much material as you can. So like one thing that we don't have to think about anymore a lot is our waste, right? So for me, I just manage all my waste, even my trash waste. You just, every single thing that you want to get rid of, try to put it in your hand and see if you can put it through some other cycle that will use it one more time.
What is it about farming, Aric, that or what advice would you have for a new farmer?
Quit your job. Well, if you want to make a even like a slight living of it with it, you got to really you got to get into it and you got to do it, and that's what that's what our earth is asking us to do. Like really, when we're carrying seeds and growing things and carrying animals, we're carrying on bloodlines and we're carrying on generations of seeds. So I think it is just dedicating yourself to the practice of what it is that you're doing. It is tough, really hard to do multiple things at the same time. And with backyard gardening, it is really tough to do proper seed saving with cross pollination and stuff. So it can be like a good practice, but in the end it's not exactly as what you think it might come out in the end. So yeah, I think just doing it, getting out there and doing it, and really like um, I think it would be nice to see the government like try to value uh, uh, people that do this type of work. I remember during COVID, there was a lot of people that were saying that our people in the restaurants, the servers in the restaurants, should be paid a lot more for what they actually do. And I immediately thought, well, what about the farmers and the people that are picking their vegetables? Like, why can't we make? Why isn't that part of our education system? Why do we not go to college to learn how to like go in the fields and work and make? I don't know. There's so many different ways that we could do that where we don't have to have immigrants come and do these things for us.
Mhm.
Or I mean, Canada's really good at importing, right? So we do get a lot of other countries that import a lot of the food that we eat. So
Mhm.
why can't we challenge ourselves to do some of that here? I mean, we do have a. I mean, Ontario is a great place for growing things. So yeah, it's really good land.
Yeah, it
So
is. Yeah, we're
yeah,
blessed with so much good land in Canada to grow food. Like so
mhm,
much, so much.
yeah. A lot of it would
Um,
just be networking and again, building community, networking and building more closer relationships to the people that are closer to us. So yeah,
mhm.
it just seems like a no-brainer. So
Mhm.
mhm.
What have you noticed connects people most deeply with your farm and growing food? Like people who come to volunteer to work with work on your farm. What is it about it that like the people who um how do I ask this question? Um hmm. One of the challenges is people just don't like work physically hard anymore, right? They just don't want to work physically hard. So what I'm curious about is there's kind of no way of getting around it with certain types of farming, especially vegetable farming and small market garden farming. So what are some of the ways that like what are you noticing are some of the values that younger people have or new farmers have that are hooking them into the farming, that are engaging them, that are making them do the doing that you're talking about?
Well, I think a lot of it's neat to see there's a lot of people that are inspired by like innovation. So there's a lot of people that are really using new technologies and new methods and new inventions to really, and a lot of them are more niche. Like you said, there's so many different ways of farming.
What are some of the core values that you notice new and young farmers have that are um, that helps get them past the barrier of the or the limitation of having to do the physical labor?
Well, I guess that's just it. there's always physical labor, so they can't really get past that barrier. I mean, you can always like, yeah, get Mexicans to do it for you, and which I guess a lot of people are doing right now.
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
innovations with machinery. I've met a lot of people that really love and are doing really cool things with different types of farming to not have to use glyphosate, which is really inspiring. That the
Mhm.
younger generations are kind of seeing, yes, this has been only a tradition, but it's only a tradition in very small generations, right? It's not that long we've been doing it, so it's there's longer traditions that have been going on a lot longer.
Mhm.
For, so
Yeah. So there seems to be a couple of themes that keep coming up here. And one of the first things you talked about was imagination, and you brought it back to imagination just now, which I love. So I'm curious because sometimes people put biodynamics in a box. So biodynamics is this. And some people think it's woo, and some people think it's like too difficult or too complex. There's all these different ideas. And there's also great ideas about biodynamics too. But when we're talking about limiting beliefs or understandings or insights around biodynamics, those are some of the common things. And so now you're talking about imagination and innovation, and I'm so curious about how you see um, like new ways of doing things and innovations and biodynamics. Is that something that can dance together, or are we limited with biodynamics, or are we actually are the doors wide open with where we can go and what we can do?
I would say the doors are wide open with biodynamics, and I mean we are proving it out everywhere in on the world. Australia is one of the bigger uh, people that support biodynamics. I mean, obviously Germany, and
Mhm.
yeah, all over the world, it's huge, and it is working. And uh, the hard part is like I would say it's just our society and how we're looking at things. Like even with our medicine, we don't look at homeopathics the same way that we always have, and it's been around a long time, and it's very similar to biodynamics. So I would say it's just our approach. We just have a hard time seeing how a small amount of something can be so impactful in a large way. But I mean, it's you can show that in science how these things are effective, and I mean, yeah, the evidence is there. It reduces radioactivity in Hiroshima. It's done a whole lot of different cool things, and it can be done on a large scale, and it's been proven to be effective and on every. It's just a matter of getting people into it, and it is very small in Canada and the United States. So it's
Mhm.
really this continent, and I think it's just our past when we are made America and made Canada, it was already in the Industrial Revolution, and we just started using chemicals right off the bat. So it's harder to
Mhm.
kind of get back to something that was old when the new was just that new was the old. And then
Mhm.
yeah, when in Europe and stuff, and they had their old time country, they still did things that way and are still trying to hold on to them today. So there are little places um, where chemicals are not used.
Mhm.
But on this continent, it's a lot harder to find. So I think there's 12 biodynamic farms in all of Canada now. So
Yeah.
the number's gone down quite a bit. So,
Mhm.
but
Yeah, it's tough because the certified, well, I'm use quotation marks. So certified biodynamic farms, I think, has gone down quite a bit. And at the same time, the people using biodynamics and practicing biodynamics is expanding, even if they're being used in like smaller amounts. So um there's a swing that's happening, and that I think is a whole different conversation about where, you know, that space is for certified biodynamic farms. So even though we have, yeah, we need more biodynamic farms and certified biodynamic farms, there are more people practicing biodynamics. And I don't know if you heard yet, but um, the a biodynamic diploma program was just approved. Um, so that is something that's brand new that'll be and it's at one, I can't remember, I wish I remember where it was, but it's at a university or college in Ontario. So that'll be really exciting to have that in actually part of an academic space for people to learn about. Aric, I wanted to be mindful of the time, and I have one more question that I wanted to ask you and touch on, which was about succession planning and what can we learn? Because you're in the process of succession planning, right? Like your mom has this beautiful farm which she's been farming, you've been farming with her, and so I'm curious about what we can learn and bring from biodynamics into that succession planning and into the heart of succession planning, the heart of farming, and if there's any insights that you are imagining or meditating on, thinking about.
Yeah, that's a big one. And yeah, I guess I've thought about that a lot in many different ways. Um, yeah, one thing is just land ownership is just an interesting concept in itself, and you can go down a big rabbit hole with just the value of owning land. And in my experience, I don't have any value in owning land. I
Mhm,
think there's a value in being on the land, and I think there's a value in doing something for the land. Like, I mean, there's a lot of people that just go on nature hikes, and that's about as much as they're going to do for the earth, right? They're just going to go on a hike and enjoy nature. But for me, I want to go on a hike and then also give something to nature while I'm there, and give something to nature on in every breath I take. So yeah, when it comes to succession, I think it's a great thing, and I think I mean I think just getting people to access land more. So like I would rather less have people saying I want to have a piece of land for myself than just say I want to find a piece of land that I can help out and just be part of. So
mhm,
just go to someone's land that you really love and say like, because every person that has a piece of land, all they want to do is get help to be able to do things on their land, right? So
mhm,
why don't we all just help each other out and work in that? So it's all time management. So for me, I do have a couple of other farms and people that I really love and that are close to me, that are neighbors, and we all have different things that we need, and it's just a matter of time and managing your time. So if I can go over there and help them for a couple of days, they can come over and help me for a couple of days, and that's a much more heart-filled way of getting through your day than saying how can I find a grant so I can go hire some people, so I can like maybe convince them that this is a worthwhile thing to do. And they're only looking at it for getting money, right? So if you're all in it for the same reasons, then money becomes less important.
mhm.
Yeah, yeah,
So true. And what
yeah.
excites you? Did you have something to add?
Yeah, well, with succession, it is a very interesting thing, and you want to leave something behind, obviously, that people can use. So try not to just look at a thing as though you own it, right? Oh my God, I have this piece of property. Now I want to put a thing over here. I want to put a building over here. We don't live as long as those trees that are sitting there on that piece of property that you just bought, right?
Mm,
So you should really
mhm,
talk to them and see what they think. And,
mhm,
a lot of times they are really willing to sacrifice their bodies for you. But in other cases, perhaps you probably shouldn't do anything. Like if there's poison ivy around the woodlot, then take heed.
yeah.
And so yeah, really taking the time to get to know a piece of property is a huge part of succession. And if it's something for you, I mean, we're so used to just owning things, and that seems to have a lot of value to people, but it really doesn't mean much to me, because I try to, if you're just there, then you don't need to own it, right? You're just there and enjoying it.
Mm,
Yeah.
that's so cool. I love the way you're thinking about that. It's very powerful and it's a complete paradigm shift, right? It's a different way of looking at
Yeah,
succession
and it's
planning.
very common
So
for us to just think like, oh, I need to own this piece of property to have it, right? But of course that's true, but it's not required.
that's right. It's true, not
Yeah.
true. True, not true. Eric, can we just go back to the composting? Because you said something that was very poignant, which was if you don't have access to the biodynamic preps, or if you can't get them in time for making your compost, to layer the plants are used in the preparations. And so I'm wondering, um, so if you could just run through what those plants are and what are those plants that we put into our compost if we can't get the preparations?
Oh, no, there's so many of them, and a lot of them, some of them are not even in the preparations. Like, I mean, plantain's a great one, mullein's a great one too, for making leaf mulch, and just leaves in general is a great one for layering.
Mm-hmm.
And the one that a lot of people do forget is just putting soil in there. So just grabbing soil from beside there and just putting that in there. Just give it a, so you're always wanting to feed it. You got to think of it as a being in itself. And I think that is probably the key, is like you just can't forget about it and leave it there and not feed it. So it always needs to have something coming in, and then it'll always have something coming out too. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so you got uh, valerian, horsetail, um, nettles is a really great one. And then dandelion and yarrow, and yeah, I think those are most of them.
Did
So
you say valerian and stinging nettle? I think so. Valerian and stinging nettle. And then you also added a couple other really good ones, was his mullein, and you said another one. Which one was it?
plantain,
Plantain, yes. And then another really good one is comfrey.
yes, comfrey, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, and then so with those, would you just put them on top of the pile or would you layer them into the pile or do you have to do anything to them before you put them in?
Again, I like to be creative with these things. So you could do that. That's almost honestly sounds like a great idea. One thing that I've done is I've had like a separate kind of like earthen container where I've just, I have, I can, there's lots of fields, so I can get things in abundance. So I can get a big pile of stuff and I'll just shove a lot down this hole and
Hmm.
just keep piling it down there year after year after year and just letting it kind of ferment on its own, and then taking that out and putting that in my compost prep
Mm.
or my compost. So there's lots of different ways to do it. And I mean, the way that Steiner did lay it out is probably the way that we should be doing it, because he's the way it is well thought out, and he's an interesting person. So yeah, I think following those is a good way to do it, but you don't have to. And that's one thing I think that everyone should understand, is you don't. It's not exactly like a recipe book.
It's a guide.
It's a guide.
Guide. I like that, Eric. And when you're shoving stuff down a hole, is that just the plant material or is there water in it too for the fermentation or anything?
I just put the material in. It's not close enough to a water source, so water would be fine. Yeah,
Okay.
it is good to water your pile sometimes if it's getting too
Yeah.
dry.
And
Yeah,
are you just digging a hole and putting that in over the years or is it
I I have a earthen container that I'm putting it in the
okay.
ground. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. But
that's
a hole would be fine. Just make sure it's defined.
yep. And what's interesting is if a person did that over time, they would actually see that the material in that hole would be different. That soil or the
Hmm.
microbes in that hole would be completely different than the edges of the hole.
Hmm. For
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, that's really, really neat. Huh.
One thing that's disconcerting for people too with using preparations is seeing results. Like a lot of people would be
Mm,
like, used it once and my crops are the same as last year. It's like, well, that kind of makes sense, but it's I'm not sure exactly what you were looking for, right? So
mm. So what should people look for then?
it is more of an ether thing, and it is more of like a over time, because you can't just expect microbes to just automatically come back, right? It does take time to build that gut microbes and all those things, build them all up again. I mean, we experience that when we're sick, right? We lose a lot of the gut microbes or whatever it is, and then we have to build them back up again, and everything takes time. So depending
Mhm.
on how wounded your land is, how close it is in proximity to other things. I mean, if it is just a suburban lot, then yeah, it might be more difficult for sure.
Man, that's really insightful. It reminds me of when I was in my early 20s, I was being diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome with fibromyalgia, and it was after the car accident that I had been in, and I was really sickly and, tired all the time, getting every cold that came through kind of thing. And I went to my doctor and I was so committed to getting better. And he gave me this list of herbs and vitamins that I could take. And I chose like the three that we felt would be most impactful. And I was blessed because he was a medical doctor, also trained in herbs and some uh alternative medicine. Anyways, I was like, so when will I see results? And I'm thinking like in a day, 2 days, a week at the very, very most. And he said, well, Natalie, you'll be lucky to see results in 3 to 6 months from now. And I was like, 3 to 6 months? You want me to commit to taking these 3 to 6 months? And he's like, yeah, and you'll be lucky to see results then because it's taken you a year and a half to get to this point, and now you have to rebuild. And I was just like, WT efforts, like what? But I committed to that. But here's the cool thing, which is what just hit me when you're sharing your story is um when in one of the interviews we did with Dr. Elaine Ingham, she also said that at the quickest that my recollection is anyways, the quickest that she saw soil turn around was like in 3 to 6 months. And but that was doing like very, very specific biological applications with compost and compost tea extracts and stuff like that. So like you related it to the gut biome, and so it's true. It can be quick, but it's not necessarily overnight.
And it is about the relationship too. Like the land is
Yeah.
wanting you to do these things over a course of your lifetime, which is very short from their perspective, right? So like when I'm asking people to come be part of the food sovereignty project, it's the seeds and the plants asking the person to carry them and have a relationship with them. So if you're not prepared to do those things, then that's probably why you're not doing them. And that's probably why you're doubting doing them in the first place, is because, you didn't really want to do it in the first place. So if you really want to be there for the plants, show up. Yeah.
That's a beautiful way to wrap this. If you really want to be there, show up, do the thing.
Yeah, do it.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Aric. Thank you for your heart and thank you for your insights and your wisdom and sharing just a small part of your story. Love you and give our love to your mom.
Love you guys too.
Okay,
Good night.
bye. You can find Earth Haven Farm at earthhaven.ca and on Instagram at Earth Haven Farm. So be sure to go and check them out, give them a follow, give them a like, share them with your friends, and remember to do the thing that you always wanted to do. Notice what your values are, what's important to you, and do those things. And trust all of life is organizing around your success. And everything that's happening for you is happening for you. Big love. You make yourself an amazing day. I'm Natalie Forstbauer, founder and editor-in-chief of Heart and Soil and Heart and Soil Living. You can head on over and sign up for free to follow us with our newsletter and learn regenerative farming, gardening, and living tips. Or you're welcome to join us for a magazine subscription or join us in our membership community for even more one-on-one support. Big love. You make yourself an amazing day.